too quiet, guys. Come on. Day 2. How you guys doing? Hey, it's more like it. So Payman, Chad, and we're from inPowered. Typically, you don't see same two guys on the stage from the same company talking about the same topic. But we met. The story of us meeting is a little different. Chad was one of the first people that ever wrote about inPowered, and he joined us like a few months ago. And when we first got to know Chad, it was actually our AI algorithm that was looking for a top expert in native advertising and paid content amplification and AI, and it literally found Chad. So before he was here, he's been doing keynote speeches, wrote a book about native advertising and AI.
Yeah.
And you also teach at universities?
Yeah, so I have 6 years of experience as a professor, 3 years at the Indiana University Kelley School of Business, teaching internet marketing. And I also taught for almost 3 years now at Rutgers University Business School. And I've written about 10 books on AI, native advertising, content promotion, content marketing. So that's my background. So I'm not here to sell you anything.
But that's not the most interesting thing about him. So the first time we get on the phone, I'm like, oh, Chad, I really dig the stuff you're writing in the space. Obviously love, what you're writing about us. And then he tells me that, he before, I'm like, what did you do before this? He's like, I was actually serving in Iraq. And I'm like, that's awesome, man. I was born in Iran. So, and these two countries used to fight to have a war with each other. So that was a great way to break the ice. And somehow we made it after that into marketing. So
yeah, 10 and a half years in the Army.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, real quick. So I didn't really want to go to Iraq, but they only gave me 3 choices. They said, go to war, go to jail, or go hunting with Dick Cheney. I chose the safest one.
So, we're here to talk about AI. You guys are pretty smart people, and, you're at a premier conference, you're all, auto executive. So I thought I'd start it off by asking, who here has used AI? Okay. Who here has used Facebook?
We have some fibbers. We have some fibbers.
All right.
Everybody.
Yeah, so that feature in Facebook where it tags your face automatically? Yeah, that's AI. So you guys are a bunch of liars. Out here to get us. So today we're going to talk about AI, and then we're going to talk put it in the context of marketing and how it actually helps you guys sell more cars. It's exciting because I've been in the industry since I was a kid. Literally grew up in the ad industry. Started a company that was in the banner advertising industry. Sold that to Ziff Davis in 2013. Started this with the whole passion for consumers, right? We were like, if consumers don't listen to your messages and they tune out, that's a tough place to be. And, all of a sudden, content marketing started taking off, and then, we started adding some AI, and we saw the magic for a lot of auto brands. And we're going to talk a lot about that and the buying journey and how content, fits in. You guys have already heard this from every CMO that there's a lot of touch points before somebody buys a car. And content plays a critical role. So the company with inPowered content amplification, and we're going to talk about how AI actually helps content amplification and makes it a lot more efficient. But we're here to talk about AI. So I'm going to hand it off to Chad. So first thing we're going to talk about is how AI actually how does it work? What is it and how does it work? Then we're going to talk about the role of it in content distribution. Then we're going to talk about, this is very exciting, guys. So the third one is basically us sharing you guys data we've never shared publicly. This is like 18 months of partnerships with some of the biggest auto brands that have spent millions of dollars, used AI to get to their consumers and drive them down the funnel using content. So we're going to share that, and we're going to play a game And I'm not going to give it away, but it's going to be a really fun game, and there's some stuff that we're going to give away. That has AI in it too, by the way, Amazon Dots. So I'll start it up with handing it to Chad.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it. So, now I've spent over 40 hours working on this presentation, and they just pulled up that screen. Not this one, the two prior. And the formatting was off. And my OCD's freaking out right now because I don't know what's going to be in this presentation. So if it looks messed up, it's their fault. Cool? Okay, so never in the history of mankind have we ever been in a position to teach machines how to learn on their own. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're at today. We can teach machines to learn. Now, we, as humans, have taught a machine to beat the world champion chess master. Think about that for a second. The best chess master in the world was beat by a machine, artificial intelligence. So just imagine for a minute, for a second, what AI can do for marketing. What AI can do for your brand. So I have one question for you.
Would you like to play a game of chess?
Now, whoever can tell me what movie that's from, you just got an Echo Dot.
All right, guy in the back. Past that. Space Odyssey.
Who said it?
The back.
Yep, you got an Echo Dot. I was hoping it would take longer.
He was on it.
Yeah, good job, man. Good job. It was Space Odyssey, what was 2001? Yeah. So, with my years of teaching, what I like to tell my business school seniors is that she who learns fastest wins. She who learns fastest wins in business. Folks, AI can be your competitive advantage. It can be your competitive advantage if you utilize it in your marketing. Not just any AI, but AI that provides business value. So some of you sitting in here are thinking to yourself, AI, buzzword, blockchain, buzzword. I get it. So what is artificial intelligence? As Payman said, I served in the Army. I was in the Army for 10 and a half years. And the number one takeaway I took from my service in the military is the KISS principle. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Right? Is this artificial intelligence?
I am a HAL 9000 computer.
Is this artificial intelligence?
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I don't know. Keep it simple, stupid. The science of making machines smart. Why is that important? Because it augments our capabilities as marketers to do our job better, faster, stronger. But the most important question you have to ask yourself before you invest in an AI solution is whether or not it actually provides real business value. Now, Payman talked about Facebook and the tag feature. That's AI. If you had to pay Facebook for the ability to have it put a little square on your friend's face and suggest to you who that is, would you pay for that? I wouldn't. As a business, would you pay for that? I don't know. But the point is, you have to ask yourself, does this technology really provide business value? And the reason I bring this up is simple. There's over 1,000 software companies out there in and around the marketing space that boast about their AI. Well, the truth is that many of those solutions, many of them, only boast about AI as a marketing ploy. Their technology doesn't really provide business value in the real machine learning sense. Okay, so I want you to stay vigilant and ask those questions before you choose any AI solution. So at this point, Paymon?
You made it real serious, man.
I was in the Army.
It's tough to follow that. I'm a little intimidated right now. So we're really into content, right? So we've pretty much like focused, every resource this company has. We're based in San Francisco. We're only just 50 people, but every single engineer, back end, front end, is focused in one thing and figuring out, how content works for driving people down the purchase funnel, right? So in this segment, what we're talking about is like, what is the role of AI specifically in content distribution, right? So if you're taking content, and it could be branded content, it could be a good review that you got on Car and Driver, right? It could be a sponsored content and you got some publishers produce for you, or it could be a video content. And we're talking about how do you get this distributed and get people to actually engage with it in the most efficient way. And we've been thinking a lot about this because we know that specifically in auto, every survey out there says the same thing, which is like, people actually expect the brands to produce content, right? It makes sense, right? I mean, every conference I've been to, I'm like, you guys have bought a car, we're all car owners. Last night during dinner, we had this great conversation about, what's your dream car? That was fantastic, by the way. I suggest that as an icebreaker at any event. It went on for 2 hours nonstop. But every single brand, is expected now to produce content, right? And, you've heard that, this is from Havas Media. 84% of people expect brands to create content. And you heard it, yesterday from the CMO of Hyundai that there's 26 different touch points before somebody purchases a car, right? And you heard it that, people, by the time they get to the dealership, and, I know I'm preaching to the choir, you guys know more about your marketing than I do, but before people get to the dealership, they've already made up their mind. So content is really that glue where people are actually reading that content and hopefully reading positive, getting informed about the brand before they go to the dealership. That's really the experience that they're expecting, and they're spending a lot of time doing that. And out of those 26 touches before somebody buys a car, turns out 11 of those are pieces of content that they have to read before they make that informed decision to buy a car. And this is really important. Forrester put this out, but you can literally back this out on every media plan. We did this for some of our biggest clients. We literally backed it into if every person, everybody out there that you're looking to, become your buyer, if every one of those people was to read 11 pieces of content about your brand before they buy anything, then guess what, right? It means that you have to back out your media mix to get them to read 11 pieces of content in order to get to the desired outcome. So it actually makes the whole media planning process very, very subjective. And it works. I mean, the magic of it is it actually works. But there's one big problem with it, which is, and I know, you've spent all your time writing about this, and you have a huge passion around it. But there used to be a time when, as brands, we put out content, right? So if I want to get inPowered out, name out there, I would create a blog. I would get a bunch of people on PR. We go out there, tell a story, right? And we get that coverage. We get the blog posts up, and we start putting out content. And there used to be a time when, that blog post got to the majority of the people, right? Just like the Facebook post, remember? They paid huge on that.
If you build it, they will come.
Right.
That's how it used to be.
Right.
I remember last decade, it was awesome.
Right.
The search engines and social brought me all the traffic I needed. I was good. The problem is, see this up here? I took this screenshot just before 5 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a 24-hour clock. 3 years ago, where it says blog posts written today, 3 years ago in a 24-hour period, there was 2.8 million blog posts published in a 24-hour period. This is to 5 o'clock, and we're already almost at 3.6. The amount of content and information on the internet is growing every day, and it's only going to get bigger as the years progress.
So if you guys, if you expect to, put out the content and then they come,
You're going to find that rather difficult.
gotta be tough.
But let me ask you this. How does that make you feel? This is how I felt when I first figured it out.
So as marketers, what we've done, and we've done it, in a big way. Some spend obviously millions of dollars in paid advertising. We're like, okay, if there's a content shock and the content is not getting to the consumer, right? Because there's just so much content, we're gonna put ads in front of them, right? We're gonna put pre-rolls, right? Post-rolls. We're gonna interrupt their experience, and people hate that. Right? We all hate that. I got a 7-year-old daughter, 3.5-year-old son, and they are, they love watching YouTube, right? But as soon as they're on there, and the first thing they're looking at, that skip button.
Hey, Payman. Payman. I don't think they want to watch this anymore.
And that skip button is what he's looking for, because it's like they don't want to get interrupted. They hate that, right? And it's got such mainstream attention that, the fact that consumers hate advertising, we all know that. Banner ads, pop-ups, interrupted ads. There was even a South Park episode about this. You guys watch South Park? All right, I'll play that for you.
For years, mankind has tried to rid the world of ads. For our ancestors, ads couldn't be avoided, but everyone knew what was an ad and what wasn't. After many years, mankind invented cable, a way to pay for television so there would be no ads. But somehow, the ads still found a way. And so mankind invented TiVo, a way to skip past commercials. Finally, it appeared to be the end of ads. And everywhere, people rejoiced. The ads were stopped, or so it seemed. With the rise of the internet, suddenly the ads had an entirely new way to attack us. Pop-ups. The top scientific minds were brought together to find a way to stop the ads once and for all. They invented the ad blocker. Suddenly there were no ads on phones, on computers, and everywhere. People rejoiced. But the ads adapted. They became smarter. They disguised themselves as news. All around the world, people read news stories, completely unaware they were reading ads. And now, the ads have taken the next step in their evolution. They have taken human form. Ads are among us. They could be your friend, your gardener. The ads are trying to wipe us out. The question is, how?
Funny, right? But it's the truth, right? Interruptive advertising sucks. It doesn't work. So, the solution we all come to like is, obviously content and native advertising is the way to get to the consumer, right? But you got to put a lot of paid media behind it, right? It doesn't work if you just leave it on your blog. But if you put paid media behind it, right? And that's really been the native advertising industry that we've come to love, right? I mean, it is becoming a massive spend for every single marketer. Billions of dollars moving from display advertising to native advertising. But, so the first version of this has been, and you've done a couple of native advertising Lumascapes or scapes.
Yeah, there's over 480 native advertising technology companies globally today.
So, the 1.0 version, right? Brands went out and they're like, okay, listen, we'll find my favorite network. And I'll take my blog post, or I take my, positive review and I put it in that network. And obviously that's very limited. So even if the network is Facebook, you're basically guessing, right? Do people want to read about this article on Facebook? It's a B2B article. Should I go on LinkedIn? It's got pictures. Should I go on Twitter? We're all guessing, right? And it's very inefficient, right? Because you're guessing your audience. You're trying to figure out, okay, this is the best guess I got for who is going to want to read this content. And it's like you're asking, is it really the right audience, right? Are you sure this is the right audience, right? And you can already see the waste in that, right? You spend millions of dollars just trying to figure out the right audience for your content.
I'm sorry, Dave, I don't have enough information.
Right? There's not enough knowledge to understand who's your audience. And this research by Chartbeat put things in real perspective. This was published in Time magazine. It was a big, big deal, showing that 2 out of 3 people that click on a native ad bounce before 15 seconds. Right? Think about that for 1 second, right? 15 seconds, they're gone. Right? So if you're paying for clicks and you're trying to get people there and you're guessing your audience and 2/3 of them are bouncing, that's like 2/3 of your budget out the door. Right? Didn't solve the problem. Didn't really get there, right? It's content. People like content, but it didn't help them read that content. It didn't get to them, right? And so, with an $85 billion native advertising industry globally by 2020, right? And not hard to do the math, right? So display advertising, $100 billion, going there so rapidly, right? $85 billion industry, you have 66% of that getting wasted. It's a lot of money getting wasted. So that status quo doesn't really work, right? Doesn't scale, doesn't get brands efficiency.
It is dangerous to remain here.
It is. We don't want to remain here. You don't want to be in the part of the status quo. And, there's icing on the cake on the other side, right? This is Ryan Skinner. I don't know if you guys read his blog post on Forrester, but he's awesome. He actually was a big part of us getting together. So yeah. He's a fantastic. He's literally an analyst in content. He's always putting out this thought pieces. One of them was with a better distribution strategy, you can also improve the quality, right? How does this work? Well, if you're putting out content, right, and you got a good distribution, and that distribution actually figuring out your audience, you can feed that back to your content creation team, right? So they can now understand what audience is resonating with your content, and as a result, they're going to produce content that is more aligned with that audience. And then there's more, right? So how many people in this room think that you guys have great content? You come from a brand side, publisher side, and you think you have fantastic content. This is typical reaction. We go and when we talk to brands, it's typical where it's I don't have content. And I'm like, really? All right. Let's do a search, right? We'll just do a Google search, and we're like, okay, you just got 100 reviews, and out of these 100 reviews, 80 of them are positive. Actually, 50 of them are comparing you to your nearest competitor and highlighting the features of your car that's superior to your competitor. And they're right there. It's earned media. So this first bucket of earned media, almost every brand has that. Now, let's just say you don't have that, right? And you're not getting a lot of PR, and it's not a brand sexy, people want to talk about it. Well, every publisher out there has a studio, right? So the brand studios, they produce a ton of content. And all you got to do is give them a call, right? And they produce a ton of content. And as sponsored content, you need a marketing person of 1, right? So there's not additional resources. You can just get that content produced. And, you got yourself earned media. Now you got yourself sponsored content. Now you're getting serious, right? So we have some of our biggest financial clients, they're big in this, right? So they're like putting out tons of content on their own blogs. This is owned media. And it is, in some cases, it's actually very interesting. It's the same people that used to create the landing pages for these brands, right? Where they would like sign up for a credit card. And they realized that low funnel strategy is so limited, right? Where you get somebody from a banner ad to sign up for a credit card before they know what you're offering. So now they're creating content. And that landing page that used to be basically a sign-up page, it's a content page. It's talking about, this was actually a really good one. I think it was Wells Fargo. It was talking about how to manage your cash flow. When I think about that, if you're a small business or an owner, like that's valuable stuff. You want to know how to manage your cash flow. So you're reading that, you're getting informed. There's a call to action, right? So every brand we ever talked to, we're like, you know, content marketing, what's the point? Reading more content? No, there's definitely a call to action. But it usually comes at the end. And that's the big difference in the funnel. And we've actually done this now with AI. And we've done it with a number of brands. Some of them like, you know, very sophisticated, been doing this with networks before us. And they realized, wow, what a difference. Well, what's the first difference? So if you're using AI, that's the machine that's going to choose your audience. So you literally, you know, you uploaded the content. Let's say it's a great review about a new SUV. When you upload the content, based on the content, it actually figures out what is your target audience, who wants to read this content, right? And it gets input from the brand, right? As you know, you have certain parameters. You might want, you know, this age bracket that works. But then it actually runs an algorithm and understands, based on all the other content that we've done for many other brands, what's the perfect audience for this? Who wants to actually read these, right? And this is how you get rid of waste, right? So it doesn't go out there and just put it in front of everybody. It literally finds the right people most likely to want to read that content. And then it starts, you know, broadening that, right? So it starts sending that content and distributing it across every single network, right? We're connected to about 40 of them. So it goes Facebook, Yahoo, you know, every ShareTrue, TripleLib, all the native channels, and then it starts, you know, exploring, right? So this is where the test and learning becomes like real, right?
Yeah.
She who learns
fastest wins.
Yeah. And it starts really understanding, like, you know, what is it? And we don't keep it limited to, you know, just to targeting, right? We go copy, we go, you know, the gender, image, headline, like all that. It's don't assume anything, right? Don't assume anything. And we've really surprised ourselves and the brands that have ran with us. We had a brand that, you know, they have a sport car, and they thought their audience for that sport car was going to be male and younger. Ended up being female and older. Like literally, like the engagement data on female and older was like off the chart. And we shared that data with them. It went to their CMO. It actually had them change the entire communication strategy. So, you know, the impact is that real. And of course, the targeting, you know, the targeting, you know, it could be first party, it could be third party, it could be all kind of, any targeting that you can do with a banner ad. You can do it much more sophisticated using AI. And it's completely selected based on the content. So, you know, I talked about the 2 out of 3 people bouncing before 15 seconds. This is huge, right? So AI that we've been running, we haven't been focusing on clicks and impressions. We've been focusing on that engagement, right? So it's like, don't worry about people clicking. That's good, but are they actually reading the content? And if they're not reading it, don't waste money there, right? Put the money somewhere else when the audience is going to actually want to be engaged and read the content. And this is obviously game-changing because, you know, now you go from like 40-plus networks, all kind of random audiences, to like, no, literally what networks and what audiences that I should be paying for as a brand and save all my money, right? and get to the right audience and get a lot more for what I'm spending. And we've seen results. So, I talk to a lot of investors and whatnot all the time, and they're like, how do we know, your AI works? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you a story on machine learning, right? I'm just going to tell you results, right? Stuff works if it works. Right? It doesn't if it doesn't, right? And we've been seeing up to 80% more efficiency, especially on engagement. And this is literally for the auto industry. So, now the fun part.
So I'm going to speed this up a little bit because we're starting to run out of time. But we're going to play a game. We're going to play a game based on 18 months worth of data across 3 verticals, including the auto vertical, and millions of dollars of ad spend. And that game is The Price is Right with or without AI. How many of you know what The Price is Right is?
I do.
But first, the rules of The Price is Right. What are the rules of The Price is Right when you first run up there?
Go ahead.
When you first run up,
When you first run up there and they bring a product out,
oh, you got it.
you got a bid on it. What happens if you go over the bid? Then you lose. So, in this game, we're going to take volunteers, 3 volunteers for 4 KPIs, with and without AI. And then the volunteers are going to guess what that KPI number is with AI without going over. And if you guess it, not right, but come the closest, you're going to get an Amazon Echo. Deal?
Yeah.
Awesome. There will be no foul play. There'll be no passing out. Okay, but first I got to explain to you the KPI. So the first KPI is the click-through rate. I don't think I need to get into too many details with this audience on what a click-through rate is. I'm sure you understand that. But the click-through rate is one of the KPIs we're going to talk about. The next KPI we're going to talk about is engagement rate. Now, most technology solutions do not track engagement. They optimize towards clicks. Why do we produce content? Because we want people to engage with it, right? So we track engagement rate and optimize towards that, and we use AI to do that. But that's one of the KPIs we're going to present to you as benchmark data today for 3 different industries. Third, cost per engagement. Now, this is where the game gets complicated, because AI drives the price down. So whoever bids on cost per engagement needs to bid lower than the without AI price. Okay, so this is the only exception to the KPIs. And then lastly, we're going to look at average engaged time as a KPI. So with that said, let's get started. This is from 18 months worth of data and millions of dollars in ad spend. Okay? These are real industry benchmarks. You can take these to the bank. I spent more time than I'd like to admit pouring through this data. And I know it like the back of my hand. So with that said, we're going to just do the auto vertical. If the click-through rate is 64%, who wants to take a guess what it is with AI? Who's my first volunteer? Amazon Echo?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. 80% or 0.8%? Yes.
Yeah.
Another volunteer?
You got one here.
Yes. 0.60. So you think it's going to be lower?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. 1.2. Okay, those are our 3 volunteers. Drum roll, please. 1.76.
Right.
You've got yourself an Amazon Echo. Thank you. Can you pass that down, please? Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Just a quick question. So it's kind of counterintuitive what you're saying. I understand why you kind of thought lower. Basically, what you're doing with AI is you're saying we're reducing the audience and we're increasing the hits.
Yes.
That's the optimization.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Against the same audience, it would go lower.
Yes. And there's another factor. There's another factor that we're going to talk about. There's cases where, so what we found is there is zero correlation between click-through rates and engagement. Zero. We've also found cases where there's a negative correlation. And what we've discovered is that negative correlation is from bots. It's from bots. So if you're optimizing towards click-through rates, think about that for a second. You may be working with a vendor that has these amazing click-through rates, but nobody engages with the content, right? Okay, so what's the next KPI? Content engagement rate. So in the auto industry, between native and social, on average, it's about a 7.28 engagement rate. That means people spend over 15 seconds engaging with that content. And by the way, people that spend 15 seconds or longer with content typically consume at least 80% of that content. Okay, so that 15-second mark is important. It's important. So, who's my first volunteer?
I have a question on that. Is that video only, or you actually, if it's like...
It's a combination of video, and I took all the data.
Have some kind of timing tag if it's a text?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Who's our first volunteer? Yes. What do you think that is without going over?
50%.
50%.
8 times higher.
50%. Okay, another volunteer. Come on, Amazon Echo. Yes. 32%. One more volunteer? Yes. 75. It's 21.84. Did anybody get it without going over? Okay, who came the closest that went over? What was your number? Okay, that's close. Can you pass that? Thank you. All right, next KPI. How are we doing on time? All right, we're good. Next KPI, cost per engagement. Okay, so, like I said before, the AI drives the price down.
This is a tricky one.
Yeah. So you're going to tell us the cost that's lower than that without going below the cost. Okay? Clear as mud? Okay. First volunteer. Yes. 92 cents.
All right.
Yes. 50 cents. Yes. 52? That's the Price is Right strategy right there.
Competitive.
That's the strategy right there. Love it. 46 cents. You were the closest. We got to get him his Echo Dot, or he's going to be mad at us. Okay. Can you pass that down? Thank you. All right, last KPI. Oh, actually, let's talk about cost per engagement real quick.
You want to do the last one? I'll come back to this.
No, I think now's
do
a
it
good. Yeah.
So I talked to you guys about, using our AI, essentially we're driving down the price. So what we decided is a lot of customers were asking, okay, you're driving down the price. I like to pay the lower price. And we're like, okay, that's fair. So we introduced, dynamic cost per engagement, which is essentially if our AI brings down the price, you pay the lower price. And it does it over time. So this is a graph that was taken from, a client that did it over a year. And what's really interesting is that you see, it starts at 89 cents, goes up to 97 cents, then gets all the way down to as low as 71 cents. And people always asking, well, what's with the peaks and valleys? Shouldn't it just come all the way down? Well, where you got the diagram going up, that's when we're introducing new content, right? So it needs to relearn. It needs to relearn, and then it needs to optimize, and it needs to get it down. And then it goes up, and then it hopefully optimizes. This has been a key feature for a lot of our larger brands because they see like a reason to have a longer partnership that gets them to a lower price. And it's been very exciting for the industry. And it literally works like this, right? So, you start with a max bid. You're like, okay, I'm willing to pay $1 CPE, cost per engagement. And, every single week, the AI learns more and more. And overall, it brings down the price. Now, in this case, it was a very beautiful, picture. Obviously, the last one had, peaks and valleys. But over time, it always brings down the cost essentially and gets to the actual most optimized price. And it's been very exciting because, obviously you want to pay the cheapest, right? But at the same time, you want to get quality, and that's really been key. All right, you doing the last one?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yep.
When you guys are looking at that data, are you taking into account where the content and the type of content based on where the visitor is in the buyer journey or in the funnel? That would seem like
That's a great question.
That would actually weight how your prices.
That's a great question. Yeah, a lot of our programmatic buyers have been basically cooking the person after they actually read the page. So it's post-engagement cookie. And they're able to start mapping that back to the funnel. And the other thing that's been very strategic is they're also looking at the content and what kind of content it was. Is it a review? Is it like mid-funnel? Is it lower funnel? Is it talking about the price? We're doing it now as a strategy, and it works.
Yeah, and if you want, afterwards, we can get together. We got more details we could share with you about the buyer's journey. ChadPaula.com. Okay, so we're running out of time quick here. So I need some more volunteers for the Price is Right AI edition. My next volunteer for average engaged time with content. So in the auto industry, without AI, it's 19.14 seconds. Yes? 38. Go ahead.
I'm going to say 31.
31. Yes. 42. 54.02. He was the closest, right?
I think so, yeah.
Congratulations, my friend.
Good job.
All right, I got to speed this up because our time is coming to a close.
Yep.
All right, so what I also did was I curated a bunch of the data from the network. So these networks we tap into, and these networks that I'm about to show you, these are real benchmarks having an AI layer over the top of them of the engagement performance. Okay, so there's some there. I'm not going to get into details, but this is real benchmark data of what you should expect from these channels when it comes to engagement. As long as you have an AI umbrella or filter over that, this is what you should expect. And the reason this is important to share is because some of you in this room, say for example, are working with Floor 6, okay, and their click-through rates are through the roof. And you think you're doing great. You're optimizing towards clicks. That's what everybody does, right? But in actuality, the engagement you're receiving on your content from that particular network without AI is going to be not very good compared to others. Okay?
So you're endorsing the higher rate?
Well, here's the thing. Our AI sits over the top of them. If you pull that AI away, those numbers are going to be completely different.
And it's also different for different content, right? So we have a lot of times that people are like, oh, so the best networking is Facebook. I just do with Facebook. I'm like, yeah, that's for one piece of content, right? And one audience segment, right?
That goes back to the funnel question, right?
Yep.
You may use different channels for different parts of
Yes.
You got it.
content.
Yeah.
You got it. And the second one is that this is actually engagement, right? So you're not tracking engagement when you're buying networks.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out on that last set of slides that those are auto industry benchmarks. Okay? So, Payman, you want to talk a little bit about this award and
we're running out of time, but we've been doing this, and this was a specific, not that it's notable to get an award, but this was actually a work that we did with Mazda for over 2 years, and it was using our AI essentially to get to the most optimum results. And it was exciting because, prior to that, they were using networks and they weren't really getting the same results. And, what was also most exciting is the two numbers, which is like the amount of time. Like their average prior to us was like 20 to 30 seconds per article in terms of like time that people spent. And post that, it was upward of the minute. Some of them was up to 2 to 3 minutes. And that was exciting because you're like, okay, if we're optimizing for something very specific, it's people actually reading the content. And it ended up actually showing up in our results with Miller Brown, which is like, there's a consideration increase, right? So people are actually much more likely to consider the brand. So, that was noteworthy because it was like you focus on engagement, you got into, people actually considering and hopefully, well, in this case, definitely moving up the funnel.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up, but I wanted to share a couple of quotes that Mazda's agency shared with us. I'm not going to read it. I learned when I first started teaching never to read slides verbatim. The students didn't like that, and I don't believe you will like that.
We still got the takeaways, so
I'm going to breeze through here real quick.
Yeah.
So I mentioned before, you got to make sure that the AI that you're choosing to purchase and invest in and partner with actually provides real business value, because it can be your competitive advantage, because she who learns fastest wins. And we all know that almost all auto consumers use content to make a buying decision. Okay, there's no question. All the studies tell us this. What else? The third one. We shared with you today that it's very hard to stand out in all the noise on the internet, because there's a ton of noise. And that there's a ton of waste. 2/3, 66% of your native advertising budgets bounce before 15 seconds. What else? So with content amplification that has AI, the kind that we discussed, it allows you to eliminate your interruptive advertising, which consumers don't like. And it also allows you to scale across 40 plus networks, social and native. What else? Now I mentioned there's no correlation, none, between click-through rate and engagement rate. And in some cases, there is a negative correlation. Why? Bots are not your friend, folks.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
And lastly, optimizing towards engagement metrics using AI and not click-through rate helps eliminate waste in paid media and delivers the greatest efficiency. Folks, that's our time. There's our email addresses. We're going to be around if you have any questions and want to talk more. Thank you for your time.